in Supernatural that when they're exorcised, it just means they get, like, sent back to hell, and they don't want to get sent back to hell because, like, it's hell and it sucks.
Yeah, you don't want to be in hell.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome back to Super Hell, aka the Mystery Spotcast, a show where two recovering Supernatural fans subject themselves to a rewatch. Specifically, so no one else ever has to watch Supernatural again. A lot of you have tagged us or DM'd us that you've started watching Supernatural because of this show, and I do very much appreciate that you guys put so much value on our content and that you guys trust us enough to, you know, see something that we're talking about and want to, you know, engage with it yourself. But please keep in mind that Supernatural is a hole that you will fall down. This is not fun. We're not doing this because we enjoy it. We're doing it because we have to.
Yeah, like, you're gonna be the child stuck at the bottom of the well, and we're trying to be Lassie saving you. Like,
yeah,
and you're like, actually, no, I'm gonna jump in the well.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. We're trying to warn you guys. This podcast is an omen. We are doing this out of a societal obligation.
Yeah, we're providing as public service.
Yeah, please don't make this sacrifice we're making for nothing. Anyway, I'm Ollie. I use any pronouns, and you can find me on social media at OllieFresh. That's fresh with a PH.
And I'm Klaudia. My pronouns are she, her, and you can find me on social media at Klaudia Says, K-A-L-U-D-I-A Says. And this week, we did it, Joe. We got to the end of season 1. We're going to talk about the season 1 finale. Last week, we talked about the season 1 finale is 3 parts instead of, like, 2 parts or 1.
I think it's technically a 2-part season finale, but it, like, the episode right before, so what would be the 3rd episode, is, like, very much, like, yeah, it's kind of part of the finale. Like,
yeah, it's very, like, we're in the end game now, boys. Like, they don't really do them like that anymore. But, yeah, we're on the season finale, and so we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun. We have some very interesting and fun little things in store before we get to season 2, which will hopefully be more expedient. There's sure some interesting things in season 2.
Season 2, honestly, this is the thing I think we'll talk about, like, what we think of the show as a whole after we talk about the season 1 finale. But I'm just, like, I forget that this show does have a very good, like, setup season.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that after, but I'm, like, I'm very impressed with how it, like, establishes the lore of the universe, and then every subsequent season proceeds to break down that lore that it established. Yeah. And not in, like, the, we're explaining it, but in the, maybe not kind of way.
I think if Star Wars or Marvel fans watch this show, I think their head would explode out their brain.
Oh, I want Supes' take on Supernatural. For those of you who don't know, Supes-ernatural. For those of you who don't know, Supes is a commentator, if you could call him that. He talks about, like, Star Wars and the MCU and that kind of stuff, and he's known for his lukewarm to terrible takes. So he's very much like I only want cameos of other characters. Like, why is Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin not fighting in every episode of the show, despite the fact that there is, like, you know, a narrative? So that's why I think it'd be funny for him to watch Supernatural, because I know in the first episode he'd be like, why don't they just find the yellow-eyed demon and kill it?
Yeah,
John Winchester's not in the show enough.
Supes is like an AI that was, like, created by the YouTube algorithm to just, like, spit out, like, whatever things. He'd be like, but I don't understand how Gabriel can be Loki, because then what's the implication? Then again, I've said things like that. So.
Yeah, but also he would say it not in a, hey, we need to dissect how this show interacts with culture and interacts with non-Christian beliefs, full stop.
Yeah.
He'd say it in a way that's like, well, I don't understand. Tom Hiddleston's not even in this show.
This is the Supes drag hour.
This is a new hit podcast, Supes-ernatural.
Ollie, do you want to give us a little recap of what happened in the first 2 parts of the finale before we get into...
I would absolutely love to. So basically, in the 2 episodes leading up to this, hopefully you've listened to the Mystery Spotcast up until this point. because it's not going to make a lot of sense if this is your first episode. But that being said, so leading up to this episode, TLDR, Sam and Dean are doing their little thing. They meet up with John, their father. They fight some vampires, and they obtain this Colt revolver. And this revolver has the ability to kill anything. So even things that would not normally be killed by a gun will be killed by this. And we see them shoot a vampire, and it kills them, like, on impact. So we know it works. Basically, the next episode, the demon who killed Sam and Dean's mom is going to strike again. And John, their father's plan, is to intercept the demon and shoot it with the Colt to kill it. But some other demons, who we assume are working for the yellow-eyed demon, which is the demon that killed their mom, such as Meg, who was a woman that we met earlier on, who has beef with Sam and Dean. Meg calls and she's like, you need to bring the gun to me right now in a city completely different from where the demon that is going to appear is, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of names. So John Winchester gets a fake gun and is like, okay, I'm going to go give them this fake gun. Sam and Dean, you need to stop the demon, right? So Sam and Dean go to stop the demon. Sam has the gun. He tries to shoot it. He hesitates, and it gets away. And then the house almost burns down that he was in. So Dean is like, no, you're not going back in there. We're done. Meanwhile, John goes to Meg and is like, here, I have the Colt. And she looks at it and she's like, no, you don't. And they try to kill him. And then it cuts back to Sam and Dean. And Dean is like, Dad has not answered his phone. And then, then they're like, uh-oh. So basically, Dean had called his dad's phone, and Meg had answered and been like, John's dead, idiot.
You've been Christ.
Like, you've been Christ.
You've been Megged.
You've been totally Meg. Call your dad to totally Meg yourself. So they're like, oh, what? And then we have the start of this episode.
So the episode starts, we've already had our road so far, we don't have a cold open, anything. It starts right from, they just got off this call and they're like, fuck, what do we do about Dad? We need a plan. So
yeah, and it's crazy too, because Sam was like, we need to stay, we need to kill the demon, and Dean's like, they know where we are.
And Dean's like,
they're coming for us.
And Dean's like, and how are we gonna do that?
And what is your plan?
Yeah. So this episode is a very important episode, not just because it's the season finale, because here is where we meet an iconic character, Bobby Singer.
Let's go! Yeah. Bobby, I will let you guys know, Bobby is my favorite character on this show.
Yeah, Bobby, and hey, here's a quick reminder. You know how we've mentioned earlier how the creators of Supernatural said that Supernatural was supposed to be Star Wars, except if it was Han and Luke like driving around America killing demons? Guess who Bobby Singer is?
Is he
Princess
Leia?
No, he's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, that makes sense. And John is Darth Vader, of course. Okay.
No, but literally he is.
He kind of is, honestly.
He literally is. He's literally like, where is Mary? Is she safe? Is she all right? Okay, I'm so sorry. I just had to remind people of that. So if you want to know more about Bobby Singer, just go watch the Disney Plus original series Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, basically they show up to Bobby's home, and he is he's an old close family friend that they knew since they were kids, and he has like an auto junk shop. He basically like lives on this house that's like on a lot with a bunch of like old cars and shit. And Dean knows him really well and remembers him. Sam not as much because he was really young. And Bobby in the wiki it says Dean seems to know him quite well, and Bobby once ran John off with a shotgun. Here's why you immediately love Bobby, because he's like, yeah, your father was kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah, he is literally like, they're like, oh, hey, and he's like, oh, so your dad finally got and fucked himself up. Oh, okay, I'm really shocked. The last time I saw him, I did almost shoot him because he was being a fucking bitch.
Yeah, it's also really the only time everyone knows the Supernatural series finale is probably the worst series finale next to like Game of Thrones. The only thing that I liked and cried about, and this is a big spoiler, was what happened with Bobby. That's the only good part of the goddamn thing. And I did think about that while watching this. I was like, oh, okay.
No, I think there is, like, I will not, this is again, not, I'm not going to spoil it, I'm not going to say what happens, but one of, I think, the best sequences in all of Supernatural has to do with Bobby, and it is, like, about Bobby. I just think Bobby is one of the most, like, he serves a role that I really like, which is, like, I'm, like, a kind of older, gruff guy, but I've got a heart of gold, and I care very much about these kids who are adults, because they're Sam and Dean, but yeah. I care very much about them. I love people who fill that role, but Bobby himself is also just a really compelling character.
Yeah, he also, like, he treats women well. He's very, like, Appalachia leftist core. Like, he just seems like he's a very cool guy, although he does have a dog named Rumsfeld, which I do believe is named after Donald Rumsfeld.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm choosing to believe that
he had... the times.
I'm choosing to believe he adopted the dog later on, and the dog was already an adult whose name was Rumsfeld, and he was like, well, I can't change his name. He already knows his name. So I'm choosing to believe that Bobby is just a responsible dog owner, despite what happens in this episode.
Oh, no! Yeah. So, Bobby's just very Austin Slay because, like, this show deals a lot with, like, masculinity, and Bobby is always, like, a very healthy picture of masculinity. He's always, like, I'm ready to, like, drink somebody under the table and I got a shotgun and whatever, but he's also very, like, so can you just, like, talk about your emotions and not be a fucking idiot? Like, he's so Yasin Slay. And that's why he also can't be around too much, because the show would kind of be over. Because he's too logical.
I do fear if Bobby had been around more, Sam and Dean would have just gone to therapy for real. He would have been like, okay, guys, listen. You guys have issues deep down inside in your hearts and in your minds, and you need to work that out.
Yeah, he's their real father. Like,
no, he literally is. It's like the freaking scene from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where he's like, he may be your father, but he's not your daddy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, in this, it's funny because they wanted to write an Obi-Wan character, but instead they wrote Yondu. Oh my god.
So, no, listen, Yondu wants to be Bobby Singer so bad.
Yondu is a Supernatural fan.
Yondu saw Supernatural and said, I'm gonna be just like that guy, but my kid is already a grown-ass adult who hates me, so I need to turn it around real fast.
My kid is Chris Pratt.
It's too late for you, Yondu. Your kid's already Chris Pratt.
You mean Bobby has to deal with Jared Padalecki? Anyways,
can't all be winners.
Yeah, so we meet Bobby, which is super great. I love when they introduce a great character in a season finale. Basically, Sam's like, okay, Sam's like, having fun isn't hard when you got a library card. And he's like, do you have, like, books about demon lore? And Bobby's like, yeah, of course I do. Like, I'm not a fucking idiot who just rides around in a car and lives in motels like your dad. Like, I actually have research and stay fucking eyes open. So he has all these books about demon lore.
Yeah. I mean, there's books like Bobby's house is lined like wall to wall with books. He's a well-read man.
Yeah, call him the Disney Princess Belle because he's got a library in there. So basically, Sam has to start going through all these books in Bobby's house. He stays prepared, unlike John, who just like lives in motels. So he finds the Key of Solomon, which is a book. It has information about how to exorcise a demon and things about a devil's trap. And while he's doing his research, Bobby and Dean are talking about John, obviously. And Bobby has a dog who starts barking outside. And they're like, who the fuck is here? And the dog suddenly goes very silent. And you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, Bobby, like, runs up. He's like, Rumsfeld, you good? And Rumsfeld, the dog, does not answer.
And the chain is, like, broken off. And you're like, oh, what the fuck? And then suddenly Meg bursts in the door. And I do believe that is her biggest offense. She's a girl boss, but then she, like, killed a dog. And I was like, in that I cannot abide.
Yeah, it is not explicitly shown, like, oh, we don't see her kill the dog, but it's like, that's what happened, right?
Yeah, if I was Bobby, I would have gone John Wick.
He's like, I am calling PETA on your ass, Meg.
He's like, call me PETA because I'm about to get your ass.
Call me PETA because I'm about to do something cruel and unusual.
So Meg just kicks in the door and starts attacking everybody, like, in Bobby's goddamn house. And she's like, give me the Colt. Where is it? And immediately she gets caught under a devil's trap because Bobby has a big brain and Sam has a big brain too. And they're like, they painted it on the ceiling so that she wouldn't notice.
The devil's trap is very important. The devil's trap is basically a circle that has a pentagram drawn in it and a bunch of symbols around the pentagram.
Yeah.
And it is said that a demon cannot escape it and is powerless when it is within it. And it becomes a very important part of supernatural lore forward. Yeah. So remember that.
You have to put them in their little timeout box. It's a little timeout box. It's also a very convenient plot device so that you can have conversations with demons. It's very convenient. And they're like, all right, we gotta kill this bitch. And Bobby's like, hey, we can't kill her. She's like, that's a real girl. That's a real woman. That, like, Meg is just possessing her body. You know that, right? And they're like, oh, shit. And they're like, okay, well, we gotta exorcise her. And then they're like, okay, but you threw her off of a, like, 6-story building, and she sustained all of these injuries. So, in the previous episode, when they thought that Meg was, a couple episodes when they thought that Meg was dead, so when the demon leaves her body, she's gonna be super injured and gonna be fucking dying. So, and Dean's like, okay.
This was an important part, because I was like, Bobby, what do you want them to do?
Yeah.
Because, like, I totally agree that I was like, Bobby is right. Like, they shouldn't just be like, okay, we're gonna murder this person because, like, oh, there's a person in there. Do you want to be responsible for murdering a person? But then he's like, but also we shouldn't exorcise her because of the... And I don't think that's what he's saying. I do think that a lot of this conversation serves as a plot device so we as the viewer can understand how demons and possession work. But I'm also like, Bobby, I don't know what you do you want them to do right now? Because I obviously am like, yeah, I'm not saying we should kill her or anything, but I'm like, it sounds like what he's saying is the person who Meg is possessing is already probably going to die. So should we just allow her to continue to be possessed by Meg, Bobby? What are you saying?
Yeah, it's also funny when I think about, like, later seasons, when they just have weapons that can kill angels and demons left and right, and they're just, like, knifing bitches in the back, and I'm like, those are people! Dean Winchester, you are not seeing heaven. I don't care what the last episode says. Anyways, Sam is like, okay, well, we have to exorcise her anyway, and Dean's like, we have to. And so Sam, he starts reading out the exorcism, and I believe the only other time that we've heard him try to do an exorcism was in the plane, when there was a demon on the plane episode, and, like, so he doesn't know it as well. He's having to read it from the thing. And while he's doing this, Dean is like, I guess this is the best time for me to start questioning her about our dad. And I'm like, you couldn't do that first and then start? But I guess it's because it's very painful for her. He's trying to use that to torture her. And she's like, John's dead. You're done.
While they were exorcising Meg, she was like, they were like, where's our dad? And she's like, he's dead. And Dean was like, okay, but actually though, where is he? And she's like, he's gonna be dead soon. He's in Missouri. But that's all I know. Like, I swear that is all I know. That is all I know, guys. Like, genuinely, I don't know. I just know they took him to Missouri. That's literally it. And then she's like, okay, I'm done. I'm sorry. And then Dean is like, okay, well, let's continue the exorcism. And she's like, but I told you everything I know. And he's like, yeah, but you are still possessing an innocent person, so we do still have to exorcise you, homegirl.
The demon is banished. Meg is gone. And actually, apparently the human's name is Meg. And the actual human woman is now laying there, and she's, like, dying. And she's like, thank you so much for freeing me. And then they're like, do you know, like, you were in her brain, like, she was in your brain with you this whole time, like, do you have any clues or whatever? And, like, right before she dies, she just gives him this clue of, like, the word, like, sunrise, and then she passes away. And And then they just leave Bobby with this dead girl's body, and they go to Missouri. They're going on their way to rescue their father, and Sam is entering his fucking Punisher era, and he's like, we need to kill that yellow-eyed demon. And Dean does another classic, it's about family kind of speech in the car. And Dean is like, hey, you're scaring me a little bit. Because you're starting to sound like Dad, where you would rather, like, you want to die, you're willing to die to kill this demon out of revenge, rather than like keep our family together, and like that should be the priority, is like keeping each other alive, and not the revenge part, and you're scaring me a little bit. He kind of encapsulates like the entire struggle of this entire show. And they get to this building where John is being kept, Sunrise Apartments, which I don't know how they figured that one out. Also, there's a like popular chain of like senior homes called Sunrise. So like, how would they know? How would they know which Sunrise it is? And basically they're like, okay, there's all these people who live here, so how are we gonna get them out or whatever? And they're like, genius idea. What if we pull the fire alarm and then we dress up as firemen and go in there? I'm like, what kind of Scooby-Doo bullshit is this? And they get in there. There's people running out of the building. They're really scared, whatever. But there's some humans, obviously possessed by demons, that are guarding John, who's like strapped to a bed in there. So they go in, and like, because they don't, at this point, they don't know how to exorcise a demon. They don't have it memorized, and they don't have a way to like kill demons. So they just go in there with the fucking spray bottle of holy water, and they're like, yeah, bad demon.
Another thing that happens right before this that's like a really big conversation is that Sam and Dean do still have the Colt revolver.
Yeah.
And they have, like, I think 3 bullets left that go with it. So after you use all the bullets, the Colt is useless. But Sam and Dean are like, Dean's like, oh, I'm going to bring the Colt with us in to save Dad in case there's, like, demons and shit. And Sam was like, no, we need to use the Colt to stop the demon that killed our mom. And Dean is like, okay, well, I don't care. Like, someone could die in there, and I care more about saving Dad than I do about getting revenge. And Sam is like, okay, well, Dad's gonna be fucking pissed if you bring it and you waste a bullet. So Dean's like, okay, fine, I won't bring it. And that, so that is, I think, why they are doing, like, alternative methods to...
Yeah. Well, I mean, they wouldn't have had enough bullets anyway to kill them. It's all very funny to me, considering later on they're just murking bitches, and somehow they have angel blades constantly. It's very funny to me. So they get their dad, and he's passed out, but they kind of like, they get him out, they're carrying him. But at first they're like, how do we know he's not possessed by a demon? So they wake him up by actually pouring holy water on him, which is very funny. And he's like, it's me. And he's like, how do I know you guys aren't demons? And they have to like pour it on themselves. So John is like kind of fucked up, and he's like, okay, where's the Colt? Do you guys have it? And once they get out of the building, they are attacked by this demon named Tom, which I just think is funny.
Imagine being named a demon and being like, what's your name? Tom. Like, dude.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah. He beats up Sam. Like, he fucks him up. And then Dean takes out the Colt, and he shoots the demon through the head.
Yeah, he's like, surprise, I did actually bring it.
Yeah. So now we're down to 2 bullets. So it cuts to them being in some safe house. They're in this like secluded cabin, and they do the basics of protecting yourself, which is you have to salt all the doors and windows, basically creating a circle of salt that is the house. And Dean has a little moment of vulnerability, and he's like, okay, he's scared. He's scared of how far he's willing to go to protect his family, just like his dad. He's got a lot of daddy issues. It's a bit it's a bit scary.
Yeah, because he's like, he's talking to Sam and he's like, yeah, I shot that guy who was possessed by a demon. And, like, there was a guy in there.
Yeah.
And I don't even, and Sam's like, oh, yeah, I know, I imagine that's hard. He's like, no, that's the scary thing is that it's not. Like, if I had to choose between literally anyone else and you or Dad, like, I would kill for you guys. And he's like, oh, that is deeply troubling because there was a guy in there.
Yeah. Of course, then John comes in the room and he's like, Dean, you should be proud of what you're willing to do for this family. And Dean's like,
He's
my
like,
father would never speak like that. What?
Yeah, he's like, you're concerned, like, I used one of the bullets. And John's like, well, I mean, that's okay. Like, you saved your brother. Like, you had to do that.
And Dean's like, that doesn't sound like my fucked up little dad. And
like, my dad would be pissed.
Yeah.
My dad would not have wanted me to save Sam.
Yeah, here's the, like, number one thing of we know John Winchester's an asshole. Dean realizes something is wrong, that is not his father because John is being too nice to him. Okay? It's all really fucked up.
Yeah, John Winchester, we hate you.
Yeah,
we're John Winchester antis in this podcast. In case you forgot.
Yeah, Dean is like, my father would never be that nice to me. He only verbally abuses me. It's while he's and then so he points the Colt at his dad, and
yeah, Sam's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but then Sam is like, wait. Actually, why would our dad be that nice to Dean? Hold on.
He's like, that's not right. Something's wrong here.
No. There's something wrong here. And John is like, oh, you got me. And he reveals that he is possessed by the yellow-eyed demon.
Yeah, his eyes turn yellow. It's very spooky.
Yeah.
Jeffrey D. Morgan was acting his ass off, though.
Yeah, he was too good for this show.
So honestly, to be fair, so was Jensen Ackles.
Yeah. So the demon starts fighting the boys, and I'm like, he could have just killed them. I don't know why he starts fighting them.
Fun.
Oh, well, I do know why.
a fun summer vacation, a summer vacation, just fun little trip. Just being like, maybe if I get a little killing the Winchesters, would anyone else want some?
Yeah. So he injures them, and he starts mocking Sam and being like, oh, you little bitch boy, you mean you have special powers, but you weren't even be able to save anybody with your special powers, and you were gonna propose to Jessica and then I killed her. And Dean's like, classic move, I'm gonna distract the enemy away from Sam, who he's fucking bullying. And the demon's like, hey, actually, so those demons that were possessing Meg and Tom, those are my children. And Dean's like, what the fuck? And he uses a psychic power, is what they say in the wiki, to attack Dean. And Dean basically starts bleeding internally, like, instantly. And so he's like, oh, fuck. And Dean's, like, yelling at the demon. And he's, like, yelling at him. And he's like, Dad, I know you're in there. You need to fight this motherfucker inside there.
He does have a moment where he's like, Dad, please don't let him kill me.
It's
so fucked. It's so sad.
You're like, oh, no. And you're like, oh, no. And we do see John actually fight back. He surfaces long enough, basically, so that the yellow-eyed demon can, like, lose his control and Sam can be freed from being in that bitch's grip. And Sam grabs the Colts. And John, actual John, like their father, who has surfaced, starts begging Sam to kill him. He's like, I don't care if I die. You need to kill. This is your one chance, and you need to kill the demon. Before it takes control. Like, do it now. And Dean's like, please don't shoot. I don't want to lose our dad. Like, we were just talking about, like, I don't want this to be like that. Like, we can't lose our dad too. Sam, no. And and Sam's like, oh, I don't know what to do. He's having a fucking mental breakdown. And Sam uses the second to last bullet to shoot his dad in the leg, which it doesn't kill him, but it helps John, their father, basically gain full control.
Which is a question that I have. Because he shoots... The whole point of this gun is that it was like, oh, well, you can shoot... Like, in the one episode, they shoot a vampire in the chest, and it works. And I'm like, so it doesn't have to be a deadly shot for it to kill. That seems like I thought the point was that you could shoot it anywhere and it will work? Or is it just like, this gun works on creatures as a regular gun would work on humans? Like, is that... But also, like... When they shoot the vampire, there's like this huge like they basically like turn to dust.
I think maybe it's because the yellow-eyed demon is supposed to be a bit more powerful. I think that's why. That's why he wasn't able to be detected with the holy water
on like a tertiary limb getting shot.
He's at the next level of the MLM that is hell, and he's a bit more powerful. So like they can't just kill a bitch by like shooting him in the. Well, and I think also that it's like. You have to kill the vessel of the thing as well. Okay. Well, not everything is possessed. So, I don't know. The lore is not consistent.
The gun, the Colt gun, she just serves to confuse me.
Yeah. So, basically, he shoots him in the leg, and John now has full control, and he's like, Sam, you need to kill me and the demon, please. What the fuck? And Sam is still hesitating, and then the demon like leaves his body, and he's like, I'm outie.
Yeah, and when demons leave someone's body in Supernatural, it basically appears that they're throwing up a bunch of black smoke. It's very spooky.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's very sickening. If you ever feel like you're sick to your tummy and then you watch this, you're like,
yeah,
I'm gonna throw up.
Yeah. It's not as bad as the Leviathans.
We'll get there.
So then it cuts to Sam is driving the Impala, and John is in the passenger seat with Dean, and Dean is really fucked up. I mean, they're both really fucked up.
Dean is in the back seat.
Yeah, Dean is in the back seat. He's internal bleeding.
John and Dean are both having a fucking bodily issue.
And John is like, why didn't you fucking shoot it and like end our like family's entire like suffering? Like, why didn't you do it? And Sam is like, killing the demon isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is family. Because that's what the show is about. And Sam's like, I'm gonna get you to the hospital. Don't worry. The most important thing is family. And then immediately a huge semi-truck smashes into the Impala, and they go rolling down the side of the road, and all three of them are unconscious. And then it cuts to the truck driver who has black eyes and is possessed by a demon, and then it's the end of the season.
No, the show literally ends with
scare.
This conversation of them being like, oh, Dad, like, oh, Sam's like, I'm trying to learn that family is important, and then they get hit by a truck and the season ends. I'm like,
that is the racist truck was foreshadowing.
I am gonna say it, now that we have talked about it, I fear that this finale, the episode before this was pretty good, this is the weakest. This is so weak. It was rough.
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of stuff they had to do. They had to establish a lot of things. They had to very much do the, like, we have to establish the main person, like, plot struggle, but also a personal struggle, which is, like, what's more important, like, the mission or family, that kind of thing. Very Fast and Furious of them.
Very Fast and Furious.
Oh, it was the Fast and the Furious because they got hit by a car.
Yeah. They're having a conversation about family in the car, and then they have a horrible accident.
Oh my god. Too fast. Too fast. Too supernatural.
The super and the natural.
Supernatural Tokyo Drift.
So true.
Supernatural Kansas Drift.
Basically, no, cause yeah.
So yeah, I would say, I think for the first couple of seasons, they're really into these, like, jump scare, like, huge, like, cliffhanger kind of things, which makes sense because it is network television and they want it to, like, really stick in people's minds so that they come back when it comes back and all that kind of stuff. And I will say, like, when I was watching this for the first time, I was like, holy shit, I gotta find out what happens. I would have been pissed if I had to wait. That being said, this episode has just so much in it. It's so long.
And that's it has a lot of content, but for me, I'm like, it felt long, but I also felt like not a lot happened.
Yeah.
And, like, I think a lot of it was, like, action sequences, so it's hard for us on this podcast to be like, oh, and then Dean threw a punch. But, like...
Yeah.
You know, like, it felt like a bit of a trek.
Oh, here's a fun fact. This is the last episode of Supernatural to air when it was the WB. Before it became the CW. So, yeah, Supernatural is one of the few shows that survived the transition.
Good for Supernatural. She survived. Long story short, she survived.
She survived. At what cost?
At what cost? You can tell.
The yellow-eyed demon's son, Tom, whom Dean killed with the Colt as he was thrashing Sam, that's so funny to me, was played by Sebastian Spence, who co-starred with Jensen Ackles in 2 episodes of the CW series Dawson's Creek. Ironically, the episodes were titled Ego Tripping at the Gates of Hell and Instant Karma. I
so
hate
true.
the CW. Also, what's crazy about this episode also is that, like, they introduced that, like, yes, these demons are my children. I'm like, and what's, like, did you adopt?
Did you give birth to them?
Like, did you
spawn
human,
them?
Like, when you were a human, were they your children, then they also became demons? Like, what? Because this concept is never really explored ever again.
No, never. He's like, these are my children, and then it's like, now how is that? Now why is that?
Yeah.
Elaborate on that quickly.
I will say this is the episode where they use Bad Moon Rising. It's very classic. It's very, very good. I forget that song is also associated with Supernatural. Ollie, what are your thoughts on season 1 as a whole?
I liked it.
It's pretty good.
It's definitely, like, as any show does, it has its ups and it has its downs. And I think that this season there are a lot of very high highs and extremely, extraordinarily low lows.
I mean, it's actually quite a good introduction to Supernatural because it really sets the expectations of how the show is going to be the whole time. You're like,
exactly. It's like, oh, there's one moment that happens that keeps me hanging on, and then I'm like, oh, actually, never mind. That ended not good.
You're like, oh, holy shit, this is the craziest shit I've ever seen. Oh my god. And then when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, it's in the shitter.
It's when it's bad, it's extremely bad.
So yeah, I mean, it's I would say, like, I'm especially for a network show, and we talked about this with the pilot and how the pilot was really great, whatever. Like, I think that carries into the whole season of, like, it does the purpose of a first season really well, like, of representing how the show is going to be overall, which is funny since it went on for 15 seasons and didn't have the same showrunner. And, you know, it introduces people, or it hooks you really well, both emotionally and plot-wise. Like, it like, structurally is quite good, which is quite surprising.
It has good pacing, too. Like,
yeah,
I think that it does a really good job mixing, like, how much you're getting on the grand story of the Winchesters overall versus the story of the world and just random, like, quote-unquote filler episodes. Like, I think there's a very good balance, and I think that even in the quote-unquote filler episodes, you do learn a pretty decent amount. Like, they are building the characters, which I think is really nice.
I mean, people talk about this a lot because with the streaming model, you don't really have longer TV shows anymore unless they're network. And actually, Eric Kripke himself, the creator of Supernatural, was just talking about this because he's the showrunner of The Boys, which is on Amazon. And it's just interesting to see because people always use that word filler, and I hate that word because if it's not advancing the plot, it is doing something else. You know, if it's good writing, there are some instances where they are just trying to fill time, like in anime when they're trying to fill time until the manga catches up, or, like, you know, something like that. But, like, even then, if it's good writing, they take that opportunity to go, okay, so then we're going to develop the characters more, or we're going to develop the lore more, or something like that. And that's why I'm always just like, that's how I feel about, like, the Clone Wars and stuff like that, or whatever. People are like, oh, this is filler or whatever. I'm like, no, like, this serves a different purpose. there's some seasons of Supernatural that are not like that, and they are very shit.
Yeah, and it shows. I'm looking at you, dog episode from season 9.
God, why would you make me remember that?
Because I think about it a lot.
It's okay. Hey, and guess what? We're one season closer to Castiel.
We are. Listen, I can't wait for when we enter the Bobby and Cass in the same episodes renaissance.
Holy
that is when I'm
shit.
going to finally be like, fuck the Winchesters. These are my friends.
He's in our hearts, and he's in heaven watching them. So
just know that we're waiting for him.
Just like Dean.
So true. Oh my god, guys.
You've noticed that Dean hasn't talked about hooking up with women a lot? It starts now.
Yeah.
I mean, Dean has this whole... you know what it is? Dean has this whole plot arc with his dad, and he has to figure out all that shit. And then after that, he meets Castiel, and that's when he's unpacked a lot of shit in his life, and he's realized a lot of things about himself, and that's when he's able to start realizing that he's gay.
Yeah, and that he can... Yeah, Guys, I can't wait to get to a later season, but as of right now, we are still on season 1.
Yeah, and we talked about how, like, the episodes that we've really liked and not liked. What do you think is your favorite episode?
Ooh, that's a great question. So mine definitely had to be Bugs.
No.
That was a joke. That is...
I almost had a fucking heart attack.
No, that is definitely a joke. I mean, I think it's kind of hard. I'm never good at being like, oh, this is my favorite thing because I'm so wishy-washy. One that I still really think back as being like one of the episodes is Dead in the Water.
Oh my god, I was gonna say that too.
Oh my god,
and I know that's controversial in the Supernatural community because a lot of people don't like that episode.
Yeah, no, that episode's really good. If you guys remember, it is episode 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is episode 3. Amy Acker is a guest star, and Sam and Dean basically stop a haunting that is plaguing this family and this lake. And it's just a classic. It really introduces some of the more like nuanced episodes. I think we don't see a lot that have a similar pacing to that episode after that episode, which sucks because I really liked it.
Yeah, it's very like, it's like you're listening to like a small town horror true crime podcast. Like it's very it's very interesting. Yeah. And it's also very like, it's supposed to introduce you to like what hunting is supposed to be like, but it's also like very emotional. It's also scary as shit. And Supernatural goes from being really scary to being really emotional to them being really stupid.
And another thing that episode does really well is that in the end of the episode, we find out that like this thing is haunting them, like this spirit is haunting, but the resolution is not, oh, we need to find the bones and we need to salt and burn them, or like, oh, we need to fight and there's an action sequence. It's like the end, the resolution of the episode is the person who killed the person who the spirit is of, like, they have to pay for what they did.
Yeah,
the ending is a lot different, because I think a lot of the time in episodes, it's like, oh, there's some clever thing that the boys have to do, and in reality, this episode was like, the boys did what they did to, like, help the people around them, but ultimately, resolving the issue was not something that they really needed to be involved in, which I think is kind of nice, is like them being set pieces in a grander narrative.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say, like, yeah, the best episodes of Supernatural are always the ones where they're kind of like, actually the real monster was humans. And they're like, oh, I guess we just have to facilitate this kind of thing. Which is just, I mean, that's kind of what happens with a good procedural, I think, in general. I was gonna say that's my favorite. I think overall, I think the pilot is my favorite.
The pilot's pretty good.
It's pretty classic, and also just because, like, it's a really good pilot, and there's so many bad pilots out there. There's a lot of, like, oh, wait until the second. I'm a really big fan of, like, really good second episodes, that kind of thing. There's not many times I can be like, actually, this is a really good pilot. It's a good episode of television within itself. Yeah. Or, like, I could understand why people would become fucking crazy about the show from this episode. That doesn't happen very often. They kind of put all the juice into that, and then they didn't have any juice left.
Yeah. I will say another one that I really like is Faith.
Yeah.
And Faith is the one where Dean gets very injured and almost dies.
Yeah.
And then they go to, like, a Faith healer who is healing people, but then people die because people are getting healed because the Faith healer's wife is doing some bullshit.
Yeah.
That episode is just a classic. I think it really does a lot of talking about, like, what, like, again, I'm realizing a common theme is where, like, the monsters were the people all along.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I like
it's
that.
always people misusing the supernatural,
Yeah.
which is a far better message, or misusing the supernatural, or also there's a lot of later episodes, and I think we have that about ones that are like, who's the real monsters kind of deal when they're dealing with, you know, more sentient monsters and that kind of thing, or like, there was there was the woman in white, which is in the first episode, right? Like, the whole thing was, like, setting her free. That kind of thing as well. So, I don't know. And you're kind of like, oh, you know what? They kind of popped off with that. And then they forget it. So, you know. It's kind of crazy. Do you have any final thoughts on season 1?
I feel like I forget why that I did like this show at a point. Like, I came into this being like, oh my god, this show's so stupid. And listen, later on, it is not winning any Emmys, but this first part, I forget how much I enjoy not only a good procedural, but also a good show where men have to deal with their emotions.
Yeah, it's very interesting because they're like, oh, there's not really any bottle episodes because they always trap them in the car. They, you know, like, and they're always, like, forced to talk about their emotions in, like, every single episode when they're trapped in the car traveling somewhere. And usually, I think also in most shows, they skip that part. They skip traveling there. They skip whatever. And in this show, they use that to tell the story a lot. And that ends up creating an incredibly strong bond between the two characters and an incredibly, like, interesting characterization of them in that way. Almost in a way that almost really only, like, fan fiction kind of does. Where
I agree. Like, and not in, like,
more time.
Good fan fiction feels.
Yeah.
It feels like this episode has a lot of moments where I was like, this feels like a slice of life fan fiction.
Yeah, yeah. Or, like, in a fan fiction in general, you're spending more time with a character that you didn't really get to have time to spend time with or spend time with in that way, the source text, and that's kind of what they do. They're like, let's spend a little time together. I know there's, like, a lot going on right now, but let's have a little talk in the car.
And let's check in.
Yeah, and you're like, what in the AO3 fuck is this?
Yeah, and you know what? We love it. That's why this season has some bangers.
Yeah.
And I think that it is again, like, that is one of those things where, again, I come back to, like, who is this show for? And I still don't entirely know.
It's funny, when I was reading a lot of what Eric Kripke, he's been interviewed a lot because of The Boys, and, you know, he's kind of set free because he's now, like, at Amazon with, like, more money than God and can do whatever he wants because he's on a streaming service. And I wonder now, I'm like, how much of it was, like, the restrictions of network television that made this show what it is? Because, and what part was what they wanted it to be, and what part was what came across, and, like, for who was it for? Where was the mismatch? I get very interested in that because I'm like, Eric Kripke, sometimes you're kind of slay.
Yeah, that is the thing I've noticed too, is, like, a lot of the times he'll say things about, like, storytelling, but also about, like, the structure of television, and I'm like, you're making points. And it's, like, a lot of the stuff that I see elements of in Supernatural, but then I'm like, what happened? So, like, I do feel like it's kind of pointless to speculate at this point. But I do think that there was a lot of, like, well, this is for network television. Like, there are moments where I can tell something was written because it was on network television.
And you're like, and you did this for what? Well, and I think also that dichotomy when you can tell, it very much feels like when you're reading a fanfic and suddenly the character's very OOC. And, like, that's why you can have a fandom that can latch onto a character so much. Because they're like, I know the true version of this character because I can tell when they do something that's out of step in the source material. Yeah. they're like, that's not my Dean. And you're like, yeah, it's not your Dean. He literally doesn't act like that in the rest of the goddamn show.
That's not my homeboy.
That's not my baby girl.
That's not my baby girl. What did they do to my baby girl, Dean Winchester? Overall, where would you rate this season out of 5 stars?
Ooh. I'd give it a 4. We're at 4.5 maybe. Like, there was a lot of problematic elements, which is why I'm not going to give it a 5. But I'd give it a 4.5 other than that, because it was just, other than, like, well-structured television mostly.
I would give it, I tend to agree. I don't know if I would go so far as to say 4.5. I would think maybe, like a 3.5 or a 4, and I think a lot of that is also because just a lot of the stuff in it is a little dated. Like, yeah. I think there's a lot of stuff that was good at the time but didn't age well.
Yeah. And then the lack of women also.
Exactly. Like, I think overall for enjoyment, I'm like, yeah, that was like a solid 4. But if I'm factoring in basically like everything else, not going into it with a grain of salt, not going into it being like, well, like if I went into it with my expectations high, it would probably be like a 3.5. But I think because I know what I know, I was pleasantly surprised.
Because I come from the future with knowledge. But we have, because we only are doing one episode and we're talking about the season finale, and a lot with John Winchester. Something was released when we've been recording the past few episodes that they decided to release the trailer for the Winchesters prequel series. And if
you guys don't know what the Winchesters is, it is a series following Sam and Dean's parents. And one of the things that you guys need to consider is that we do later on, for those of you who've just listened to the Mysteries podcast and you don't know what happens later, there is a pretty extensive part that deals with John and Mary's relationship and what that means and why John is a hunter in the way he is and what Mary's deal was vis-a-vis the supernatural. So there is like pretty solidly established lore. But then they were like, let's make a prequel series where they hunt demons together. Despite the fact that it's like, it's kind of important to the lore that they don't do that.
Yeah, it's the Legends versus Disney canonification of Supernatural.
Yeah.
And we're the like, I only stand Mara Jade girls.
I would also say, like, just keep in mind, at this point, we are going to talk a lot about spoilers. Which I know we do in every episode, but this I think we are going to actually, just because there's stuff I know that happens later on in the show
also,
that...
To be fair, a lot of that lore is in very shitty seasons, so I did kind of block a lot of it out of my brain.
That is true.
All I remember is, like, the Campbells. But yes, so this trailer was released, and we decided as a special little treat, we did not watch the trailer, and we were going to have
It came out, like, over a month ago.
Yeah, it came out in, like, May. And we decided we're not going to, the show is going to come out in the fall. It's going to be on the air with a bunch of other while the Lord of the Rings prequel is out, while the Andor series is out. There's something a bunch of going to be airing. While the Game of Thrones prequel is airing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hit television. Sorry, Andor, this has nothing to do with you, baby girl.
Andor, I'm so sorry, girly. Also, I think while She-Hulk is airing, like, it's going to be a lot.
It's going to be a lot of options, and it's our job to help you decide if you're going to be partaking in the Winchesters.
Yeah. Also, a fun piece of the Winchesters lore is that when this show was announced, and they were like, yeah, Jensen Ackles is one of the producers. And then people were like, what about Jared Padalecki? And then Jared Padalecki found out about it on Twitter and then basically tweeted at Tuber10.
No, he went on this huge rant about, like, you think you know a person. I did not know that this show was happening because no one contacted me. And he was like, oh, it was, guys, it was not good. It was ground zero.
It was one of those, oh, we got season 17 of Supernatural. Here we go. So this show already has so much going for it.
Yeah, it made Jared Padalecki mad, which is always fun in my book.
But yeah, Jensen Ackles is one of the producers, and also in a recent interview, I think he said he will be doing narration I think it's going to be Dean narrating about his parents' life.
Which is funny, because I'm like, when is that happening in Supernatural canon?
Also, why would he know anything? Oh,
maybe
it's from heaven.
We'll have to... we'll have to watch the trailer. We're going to do a live reaction to the trailer for you. Hey guys, it's Ollie in post. I wanted to let you know that we did do a live reaction to the trailer for The Winchesters, which I will link in the show notes. I would definitely recommend that you watch it before you continue listening to the episode, because it is not going to make a lot of sense if you don't. We did try to do a live reaction so you could watch along at home, but it came out as a bit of a cluster, so for the first part of this bit, I just picked out parts that I thought were funny and put them in a bit of a compilation. So that's what you're about to hear. You're also about to hear our thoughts on the trailer, but as I said, please watch the trailer first. At least that's what I would recommend, so that what we are about to say makes any sense at all. All right, back to the episode. Now. Oh, it's dark. Oh. There's Dean.
Not the men of letters.
He knows it's not the hunt of evil that brought them together. So wait, is Dean doing this from heaven? His mom is a MILF.
I was literally gonna say.
Grandma Winchester.
Grandma Winchester's a MILF.
Wait, is this John? Is John getting almost killed by a demon and then Mary saves him?
Oh no, they're baby girl defying Dean. John.
John. So this is literally, like, not canon at all. Like,
not the meet cute.
He punched her in the face 3 times and then she punched him back.
Not John having a shitty father too.
Who was a hunter? Her dad is missing! Mary's dad is missing!
Not the 70s music.
This is like... Okay, something I'm noticing. This is... Was that a little...
That was a little gay.
No, look, this is...
That man is a homosexual.
No, he is the new Eddie from Stranger Things.
Wait, are they Stranger...
No, Wait. This is really giving Stranger Things, because they're, like, young adults.
No, they're making John Winchester into fucking,
Steve Harrington?
And then they're making Mary into Nancy Wheeler. Okay, why does she have the hair and makeup of a girl in the 2010s? Wait, they have a little crew of gay little friends?
What is gonna happen to John between now and the beginning of Supernatural?
He went in the army. Oh no, he just came back.
He just came back from the army.
When does this happen?
No, because Dean just said he's on a new mission.
The Winchester lifestyle is just being gay.
Okay, also no, because the way the intro looked just like the original's, like, title splash screen.
And they have them running around, and I was like, okay, so the YA-ification...
We have just watched the trailer for the Winchesters.
Oh my god! First of all...
No, the YA-ification of Supernatural.
And it's not the Riverdale-ification, it's the Stranger Things-ification, because they're taking John Winchester, abusive John Winchester, and they're like, what if he was Steve Harrington and their mom was Nancy Wheeler?
I have to keep it clear. I have not watched Stranger Things.
I have.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure that everything I know is from Twitter, but it's very funny. They very much made it seems like it's much more of a comedy. Like, it seems like it's a dramedy.
I mean, that's kind of what the show Supernatural is, to be fair.
But not like that.
Yeah, well, it's very, I mean, they're very much, they're doing the YA CW-ification, which I'm fine with, but I'm also like, this is not what happens.
Yeah, no, like, because we do have canon information that, spoilers, Mary's family were hunters.
Well, I mean, they do say that in the trailer.
Well, yeah, no, but Mary's family were hunters, and John specifically did not know that.
Yeah, so this is a spoiler, but it's not a big spoiler, is that Mary's family were hunters, and she was a hunter.
That's a pretty big spoiler.
Yeah, she was a hunter, but she kind of, like, gave up that lifestyle, and he didn't know that when they got married and had kids and whatever, and he didn't know, and that's why Dean and Sam, they had never, like, met their mom's family and stuff like that. And that's also why Dean's dad had to, like, learn hunting on his own.
Yeah, he did not have this. It seems like in this show, it's giving them a spunky little gang, and John is gonna be, like, a hunter with them.
Also, I don't love how they were like, okay, we need diversity in this show about 2 white people, so we're gonna have them have a spunky little gang with 2 other people who are not white. And then I'm like, but what's gonna happen to those people?
Yeah, and
what's gonna happen to them?
I would rather have them there and know that something is going to happen to them just purely because of the tie, like, purely because we know Supernatural happens and we don't know what happens to them. Like, I'd rather have them there than just have it be 2 white people, but I'm also, like, series finale is for sure gonna be them having an issue.
Yeah, and so Jensen did say this, like, he's narrating in the trailer, and
which is okay. I also have to say,
what he's like, I'm on a mission to find out.
I'm on a new mission,
and you're like,
I'm on a new mission. I'm like,
dead.
Dean Winchester fucking died on a rusty nail. Like, is this his heaven mission?
No, this is Jensen Ackles decanonizing the sequels. This is Jensen Ackles decanonizing the series finale.
Okay, no, because also, hang on. Dean Winchester goes back to Earth after being in heaven. He's possessing bodies as a spirit going through. No, but also, okay, the idea of Dean in heaven doing this.
Also, Sam would definitely go with him.
No, he said, fuck you. Sam said, I don't care about our dad. I'm sorry, I don't care.
Dean's like, oh, I know I had 15 seasons of character development, but I still am hung up on my stupid-ass parents.
Wait, I made a joke about this, about the Winchesters being fucking Destiel looking for answers, but this is how Cass can still show up. This is the Destiel honeymoon. Where Dean is like, I'm gonna learn all about my parents, and Cass is like, so true, do you want to kiss?
Oh my god, it's the Rise of Skywalker.
He's like reading, who is he narrating it to? His friend Cass, who's waiting to make out as soon as he's done. He's like, no, yeah, this is so interesting. Wow, your mom sounds like an amazing, your mom sounds amazing,
Okay, but Castiel's met his mom.
I know, but still, he's like, wow, her young stories sound amazing, John.
That's another spoiler.
John wasn't always an asshole. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway,
somehow...
like, are we doing this or not? Like, I prepped for everything. Like,
okay. But here's the other thing is that, like, they're trying to like make. Oh no.
Let me what I just realized really quick.
They're trying to make John Winchester into what people think like Fanny Dean Winchester is, which is like a confused bisexual young man.
Okay, there was a gentleman in this trailer. I don't know his name, but John, are you?
They kissed on the mouth. It was the 70s.
There's the 70s. And I do want to say really quick, something that happened in this trailer, like what it seems like the plot of the show is going to be. John Winchester has just returned home from Vietnam, I guess.
Yeah, isn't he going to be a little fucked up?
Yeah, he seems fine. He's just returned home from Vietnam. He comes home to, like, the auto repair shop that his mother, I guess, owns. And he's like, hey, Mom. And she's like, hey, your dad left. Like, he didn't leave while he was gone, but it is established, like, he is fatherless. He does not have a dad. So John goes out into the backyard.
That makes sense, because John does exhibit fatherless behavior.
But John is like, what? He goes outside and he sees this dude who's like all fucked up. And then he sees this beautiful young blonde woman beating the fuck out of this demon. And he's like, oh my god. And she's like, I'm Mary. My family is hunters and my dad is missing. So it's about Mary's dad being missing. And John basically, it seems like he signs on to come with her and her team of a woman.
There's Steve Harrington in him. That's literally what happens.
No, I agree completely. I just want to give a little. But also, he comes home to his mom and his mom's like, you've been trying to chase down your dad after he left us all your life. And I'm also saying, his mom is a MILF.
Oh, like, absolutely.
Grandma Winchester, MILF.
MILF. Absolutely.
Had to add that.
Absolutely. Also, will we get to see him meet young Bobby?
Oh my god, Bobby is in this show.
Here's the thing, that would also break canon because all of his hunter friends he met after Mary died.
Yeah, so do you think John's gonna get his memory wiped again?
Oh my god, I forgot he got his memory. Wait, so do you think that's how they're gonna keep it canon? They're gonna have John's memory get wiped?
That would be so funny.
They're gonna Donna Noble this bitch?
I hope they wipe John's memory at the end just so that and that's why he acts like that, because he has so much brain damage from having his memory wiped that he becomes an abusive father.
See, because and the original thing is like, oh, he came back from Vietnam and then his wife died and he was really fucked up. And it was like, no, actually, it's because they wiped his fucking memory.
Like 3 times. It's been too many.
But also
at the end of every season is John's memory getting wiped again.
It's like
Dean's reading
this.
Dean is reading this story and he's like, girl, what?
Oh my god,
like,
wait.
Cass, you're never gonna believe this, and Cass is like, so true. Anyway,
you know what I just realized? This is the R2D2ification of Dean Winchester, because the whole thing with Star Wars is that it's R2 is the one telling the story. Like, George Lucas always said that, because like R2 is always there, and that's why they never wipe R2's memory, and he's like the only one he's seen everything.
You've been around the block.
It's Dean in this. He's the one like telling the story. No,
This is so dark.
Hateful.
I'm honestly, can I say something? I am excited to watch this.
No.
Like, this looks, I am not saying that I think it's going to be a good show.
It's going to be so bad.
It looks hilarious, like, for me, and not in a way they want it to be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we will be considering covering this show on this podcast, in a negative way. We do not want you to watch it, or at least watch it by non-legal means, and then do not talk about it on social media.
It's
because
between
they don't
you
deserve
and
the attention.
I will say it's between you and God if you choose to watch it, but don't let our talking about it be the reason that you do.
No. Well, again, much like the show Supernatural, we will watch it so you don't have to. We're gonna do it so you don't have to.
This is where we watch it and we're gonna be like, wow, this is actually a spectacular show. Like, it's gonna be like Emmy level, like, prestige television.
It's gonna be the Riverdale-ification. Oh my god, who do you think is Jughead? Mary Winchester is Jughead.
She is exhibiting Jughead behaviors. She's like, I'm not normal. I'm not like
that was her in the later season when she comes back.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not Jughead. She's like, because you know they're getting resurrected and shit on Riverdale now.
They walked so Supernatural could run. Like,
Riverdale walked so the Winchesters could run. I will say my final thoughts on the Winchesters. Unfortunately, sadly, tragically, I am actually kind of excited to watch it because I think it's going to be a shit show.
And I love the Legends versus canonification.
I can't wait for real Supernatural fans to stand up against the chains of corporate the CW.
Yeah. I'm also just looking forward to the new Supernatural fans fighting against the old Supernatural fans. Also, we're gonna have a Supernatural prequel airing at the same time as whenever Doctor Who comes back.
Oh, it's gonna be dark.
It's gonna be really dark. And also all the other things that I mentioned. So get ready for the internet to be the worst fucking place. Also, you know, Thrawn is coming to the Ahsoka series. So Super Hulock, it's here. It's here, guys.
Super Hulock. Don't compare Thrawn to BBC Sherlock.
We're going to be talking about season 2. When the Winchesters starts coming out, we will see if we can also cover it. We may have a little like weekly Winchesters update. And again, we do not supporting this show. Especially also because like the CW was like, let's cancel all of our shows about people of color and only keep like the Supernatural prequel on like Walker.
This is not an endorsement.
No.
Yeah. I've never endorsed anything in my life. So
yeah, allegedly. And
allegedly, I have never endorsed anything in my life.
Yeah, and if you're going to talk about it, like, don't talk about it publicly on social media. Like, go in your group chat and trash it or something like that.
Yeah, don't give them the clicks. Don't give them the clout. The CW, we are not your friends.
Yeah.
The attention economy is real. Just ask Leah Michelle.
What if they cast Leah Michelle in the Supernatural prequel?
What if, okay, or we know from The Boys that Jensen Ackles is a bit of a singer.
Jensen
Ackles as Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. New Funny Girl casting just dropped. Jensen Ackles ? He's not doing Supernatural. He's got time.
He's gonna be her understudy.
Leah Michelle's understudy. He's gonna be hired to read her lines.
Anyway, Thank you for listening and being on this ride with us for a whole season. For more Cursed Supernatural content, follow us on social media at Mystery Spotcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also ask us Cursed Supernatural questions in our TikTok Q&A or by emailing us at themysteryspotcast@gmail.com. If you enjoyed listening to us suffer, please rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, Overcast, whatever app you use that allows people to rate and review. That would be really helpful. It helps people find our show. If you want to hear more from us, we are also two of the co-hosts of RuPaul's Pod Race. We have some very fun and very sly things planned for this period in between the Obi-Wan show airing and the Andor show airing. Don't miss out. It's going to be very sly. See you 2 Tuesdays from now for season 2 of more slaying people, queer baiting things, the supernatural business.